and welcome to PNR204, our Friday edition. Um, I appreciate your patience with me asking people to get their names on, making sure that cameras are on for the whole class. We've got some guidelines I'll be going down, talking to you about as we continue. Seneca, you have a blurred background. We can't have that in class, okay? You too, Alexandria, I see a blurred background. I know they're cute, I know they're nice, but for class, we can't have it. I don't even do it in my Zoom, okay? It's just part of that being professional at all times. So we'll be going over that when we get into the PowerPoints today. So my name is Professor Bogart. I have been at Fortis College since 2017. I taught also pharmacology on ground and pediatrics on ground. And when they moved pediatrics to a virtual medium instead, I was one of those people who came over first and I built the courses. Now, originally I was doing all the RN courses, but I'm going to be doing some PN courses now, and I'm excited to teach you what I know and to get you guys thinking a little bit more. I owe a lot of my career to PNs who taught me how to be a nurse, and I'll never forget them. And I could enumerate a couple names, and my career goes back to 1976. So I've got a few LPNs that did help me make me who I am today. So I'm very grateful. So anytime during class, at any time you have a question, I want you to stop me. I don't want you to feel embarrassed. I don't want you to feel like you're bothering me. You will never bother me. If you have a question, please ask it. There are no silly or stupid questions, okay? And I'm sure if you have a question, somebody else does too. So I am just finishing my PhD degree. I mean, I was one of those nurses who I was an RN at age 21. I was out of school, poof, and I was an RN for many years. And then back in 2009, 31 years into my career, I decided to go get my higher level degrees. So I got my BSN, my MSN, and finishing my PhD. So I'm one of those crazy people who went back late, but I didn't want any type of regrets in my life. And I'm glad I did it because I'm enjoying teaching really a lot. So, I'm really glad to be able to be here with you. And I'm glad to be in my home, just like you are able to be in your comfort spots too. So that's what I like about it. My job is to help you succeed. And how do you succeed is by always letting me know what's going on. I know on Tuesday, there was a lot of questions coming up from a lot of different people, and I received a lot of emails. There is never an email that bothers me, and I try to answer them as quickly as I can. So I'm not the one that you have to wait till the next day. If you send me something this morning, wait until tomorrow. I'm usually going to answer it by noon or 1 o'clock. Absolutely. So know that I will get back to you, answer your questions as I can. So today, what are we going to do? Well, we're first going to go over what they call the rules and the regulations of online nursing so that you know what's expected of you. So there's no questions, okay, about assignments and my expectations of you. Then we're going to go into a PowerPoint, which goes into chapters 15, 16, and 17, going into growth and development, infants and toddlers. And I did send you that PowerPoint yesterday, so you all have that. So, and I also sent you the PowerPoint on the expectations of class. So you can refer to that at any time if you need to. So the only thing I request is keep your cameras on, keep them on your faces. If you need to eat, I get it. I understand you're all busy, you're working, you have families, you're going to school. It's a big thing. If you need to eat now, have a drink, it's fine. If you have to get up and go to the ladies' room, men's room, quick go and just come back as quickly as you can. I understand life occurs, okay? I'm not going to say, well, where did you go? Like, Chris, I don't want to see your ceiling fan. I'd like to see who you are. I really would. So you put it down a little bit, I'd appreciate it. And you, Chandra, and you, Pandrikia, I'd like to see your faces. I want to see your faces, and I'll tell you why. As I'm teaching, I'm going to be looking at your faces and seeing if you're hearing me, or if you're understanding it, or if you're shaking your head. or looking so confused. Maybe I have to describe things more. So that's why I do that way, okay? So Patricia, can you hear me? Okay, just put it down a little bit so I can
I
see.
hear you. I'm sorry.
It's okay, just put it down so I can see your faces. Okay? All right, let's go ahead and let's start with the first PowerPoint. And I'm going to finish it off if we have time with the Kahoots. Now, I am famous for my Kahoots. I do have a lot of Kahoots on my pediatric YouTube channel. It's mostly for RNs, but I'm telling you, you would benefit from them because they are some concepts that going through your course and reading about it, they're there for you too. So if you ever want to go and look at different things, hear different angles on things, you can go to Professor Bogart's Pediatric Nursing on YouTube. And I have a whole year of recordings. And they're very similar to the RN recordings. So, and they also have all the Kahoots there that you can go back. It's in the little message box, information box. So all that information is there for you. So Kahoots, as we continue onward, are going to be important. You're going to see concepts that are on your exams, that are on your quizzes, that are on your HESIs. So those Kahoots are packed full of information. So just to let you know that you're not only going to be taught today, you're going to be immediately tested on it. And then you can see, do I know enough? Okay, what do I need to review? So that's how I try to help you. So let's go ahead and start with the PowerPoint, just going over what's going on today. What's my expectations? So for the PNs, now online nursing means that you need a computer that needs to be charged. You need a plug to have it in so that you can be with me at all times. I know sometimes we forget our plugs, we forget to charge, especially on exam day, you forget to charge your phones. Please make sure these things are all ready for you so that you have it available so you're not running around at the last moment, okay? So who are you going to contact? Well, I'm actually the lead PN instructor also. So I'm not only your instructor, I'm the lead instructor. So always talk to me first. Now, if you're not getting an answer that you want, or I'm not giving it to you quick enough, I tell you, please go to Dean Brown. I will not get upset. I don't get offended. I want you to go and to get the information you need. And if it means you go into the dean, it's fine. Now, just look at her email. Make sure you know it's Darlene.Brown, not D.Brown, because I'm B. Bogart, okay? So hers is the full name because there actually is a D. Brown, another one, in the Fortis faculty. So I can be available in many different ways. Now, you can message me if it's something you need to be found out today sometime. If you need something quickly that many of you are on time crunches and trying to get an assignment done, I want you to take down my cell phone and use it as you need it. Don't overuse it, but it's there for you. It's 305-951-8055. And you will see that also is posted in the welcome. The welcome will have it there also. So you have my phone number if you need it for emergencies. And the welcome tells you what times I'm available. I'm even available on the weekends. All I ask is on the weekends, don't contact me after 12. I like to have a nice breakfast with my husband, and sometimes I go and have it with my daughter and my grandson who live down here next to me. So that's all I request. So if you need information from me, first do some message and Canvas, and then if you need it right away, of course, please message me. I do not mind. Now, when we're talking about being online and communication, just remember to have respect at all times. I will respect you all the time. Just respect me back. I'm asking you to do things. It's not because I'm trying to be this mean, cruel person. It's just that I know that my work is always looked at by my dean. And I know that the dean does things certain ways because there's a lot of these regulatory accreditation bodies that go in, and there's so many names and letters, I don't even know what all those are. there's, ASIN and ABHAS, and there's more and more and more. And they go and they look through recordings and they look through all of these things. So we're just trying to be the best program we can be, okay? That's what that's about. And we want to keep our accreditation, okay? If you have anything during class you want to talk about, please tell me about it. Try to put it in language, not using, slang language, et cetera, et cetera. And of course, if you are messaging me, don't put it in caps. I didn't know about it because, as an older person, I didn't know that caps means they're yelling at you, but please don't put it in caps because I don't need to be yelled at. I'm too old for that now. So our classes start on a certain day where the homework will come out, and that is Monday at 12 a.m. or Sunday night at 12:01, okay? That's when all the assignments will open. Your case studies will open. And I want you to know there's a couple things I leave open that you can work ahead on so that you can see what they're due. But I'm going to go into that as we keep going there. Remember, everything is due. If it's open due this week, it needs to be in by Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Pacific time. So if you're in another time besides Pacific time, you could be at 2:59 a.m. if you're Eastern time. Now, I do follow a late policy, which means there is 20% of your work is part of your grade after you get the 78 on your quizzes, exams, and HESI. We will add in the homework work. Now, you can get a lot of points deducted if you don't hand it in on time. So if you are on time, you'll get the full credit of your grade earned. If you are after Sunday night, you try to turn it in Monday, it is late. Now, what if and you'll get a 10% deduction. But what if something happened? You were in the hospital, your kid got sick, your computer crashed, there's an ice storm, there's whatever. There's so many things that happen. I could go on and on about the things I've heard. Message me immediately. Let me know what's going on, and I can give you some grace time. But if you don't communicate with me, I don't know. And therefore, I need to take off that 10% deduction, okay? I don't want to do it, but you have to notify me first, okay? Attendance is only recorded in the live sessions. That attendance attestation we're not using anymore, that we used last semester, actually all of last year. We're not using it anymore because I am doing attendance. So this is why I was asking things. Sign in with your full names, be on camera at the whole time, and don't have it pointed to the ceiling. And this PowerPoint was made by Dean Brown, okay? You cannot be at work and you can't be driving during a session. If you are, I will remove you, okay? We don't want those things. There's, you can't be working and being at school. There's a conflict of interest there. Also, if you're in driving, there's safety issues going on there, whether you're a passenger or not, okay? Make sure that you sign in on time, okay? Today, I will not mark you late. This is the only day I'll mark you late. After you come in and I start class, and as I said, I usually start about 3 minutes after. I usually give us 3-minute grace time just because of the internet slow today, one of those things. After 3 minutes, if you're late, let's say 5 minutes after, 15 minutes will be taking off your attendance. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, if you are 15 minutes late, we will be adding up these amount of being late, okay? And there'll be a 5%, 10%, 15%, 20% of your attendance being coming off. You're going to be notified at 5%, 10%, 15%, so that you know you're getting close to that 20% of your attendance, you're not here, you will get 1 full grade off of your grade. So if you got an A, you get a B. If you had a B minus, you're a C minus and you'll fail. Please don't do that. So make sure that you're here on time. Now, what if something's going on in your life? Let me know before class occurs, okay? It can't be every class, but let me know what's going on. So again, you'll be notified for 5%, 10%, 15%. So you know that you're getting close, okay? I know some students have said, well, I have this going on at the beginning of the class. Can I sign in later? Well, it's going to be okay for now. You'll get partial credit, but you could miss a quiz, and a quiz is 1%, and quizzes are given now in class. They're not going to be an online during the week, take them when you want. So how are you going to be successful in this course or any course? Well, make sure that you have some sort of system that looks at your homework. When is it due? What are topics we're talking about this semester? What do I need to do which day? Get it planned out, especially if you're working, have a family, et cetera, et cetera. You need to fit in work when you can. So make sure that you follow the syllabus. That's why I sent you a syllabus, okay? That's also going to be attached this week to you also. That syllabus is in Canvas. It is your Bible. This is the way all assignments are made up. So make sure that you look at it, whether you take magic mark, you have it printed, whether you take and, have it saved in your computer and you X out what you're doing when you're doing. I don't care how you do it. Just make sure that you get your stuff done. Now, I do send you reminders just to say, hey, I don't see that you did your discussion question yet, and it's Friday night. And we know the first part of discussion question was due Wednesday evening, okay? This week, again, I'll give you leeway. You can go till Sunday as long as you get in your discussion question and your 2 peer responses, okay? But just make sure I'm going to be sending you reminders. If it's Sunday afternoon, I'll usually send you a message. Hey, you didn't do your case study yet, or you didn't hand your NCLEX in. Don't forget, don't forget. I'm pretty good at letting you know. So they're not here for me to say, hey, you didn't do that. It's just as a guide, it's a help. It's not to make you feel like you've done something wrong. It's just, I want to help. So again, be in contact with me. I can't stress that good enough. Make sure that you have an internet that works. Your computer and stuff is charged in, ready to go. And I know it's hard at home, especially you with children, to have a quiet place free, that you can do your work, but try to do the best that you can, okay? And then any assignments, read the directions. You don't understand them, send me a message. I will let you know this is what it means. And I've had some students already send me messages. Log into class a couple times a week. Now, I am not a person who sends 100 announcements every week. If you see an announcement from me, it's usually something important, okay? You will see tomorrow week 1 recordings. You're going to get posted the recording from today, and you're also going to have the Kahoots I do if I have a chance to do it. And even if I don't have a chance to do it, it's going to be there for you so that you can review it and see questions. Again, it's like practicing NCLEX questions. I know you hate NCLEX questions. They're just all this busy work, right? Well, we're getting you ready for the NCLEX, right? So my Kahoots questions are specific to this week's information. So just let me know what you need, when you can't do something, and I will help you. So make sure you've gone down and do all the preliminary work in your quizzes and have your ebook, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you've got your syllabus in a place where you can find it. And then seeing if you have the correct textbook. I know that there was some confusion on Calculate with Confidence. I did send a message because a student was telling me by Tuesday, I was getting messages regarding this. So that information is there. And I went back in and reviewed it, and I found a guide that shows me differences between edition 7 and 8. So I know where these pages are now for you. So any questions, let me know. If I start getting the same questions, I'll put it in an announcement, because if 2 students have that question, I'm sure somebody else does too. Try to come to class and be prepared. Now, I will be sending your PowerPoints early. You'll be getting yours by either Saturday or Sunday. I'm trying to put them all in one PowerPoint instead of, every chapter put together. And that's the way they are right now. trying to do a little bit of revisions to make it easier for you to have it in one place, and trying to put prettier pictures and all those things. Because I think pictures really tell 1,000 stories, and I like to put them on the PowerPoint. So that's what I'm doing and getting ready for you, trying to make it easier for you to understand these things. Now, I don't hold, quote, tutoring sessions, but if you are not understanding any concept I'm going over, I will work with you and your schedule with mine to find time that is appropriate, and for you that it's good to get together to do one-on-one, or it could be you and 3 of your friends. It doesn't matter. Whatever you need, I am here to help you. So all you have to do is ask. Again, just ask. And I will ask you, and the one thing I can tell you about the way I teach is I make it simple. I keep everything simple. I don't have to explain it in big words. I'm trying to put it in a reasonable language. And you actually have my daughter to thank for that. My daughter has been that sort of girl that for her entire life asks 100 questions a day, and she wants to understand. So I've always had to put it in a language that she understood it, no matter what it was all about. So because of that, that's the way I teach. So her name's Danya. Thank you, Danya. So you need to come to Zoom on class every single week. We will be doing reviews for exams and HESI, and we will have 2 different reviews. There's me and Professor Brunel. We both will be doing one. I'll be doing one either on the week or on the weekend. We're going to try to figure out what time is good for you. The first exam is week 4. So we'll be doing reviews on week 3, and you will be getting a handout on exam reviews prior to week 3. So usually it's like Saturday of the end of week 2. You'll be getting a handout so that by week 3, when you do the review, you have the information printed out if that's what you like, or wherever you digitally, and that you can go through and add to it as we go through and do these reviews. Now, these exam reviews are not total encompassing. They do have those concepts, so you still need to open your book and you need to look at it when you're not really understanding what's going on. I know some students re-listening to my lectures. They do them 1 or 2 times, and that's why I have a YouTube channel. It's something that's there, it stays there, and you can replay. As I said, 80% of your grade, unit exams, quizzes, pediatric HESI. Once you get a 78.0 on this, then you can add in your homework, and you can see how much the homework is due. So make sure that you do your assignments that are needed. You can look at this and say, wow, look at those case studies. They're worth a lot. So is your NCLEX questions. So try not to miss them, because it is a lot of points. Now, if you did your case study and you went to your grade book and didn't see your grade transfer in there, immediately send a help ticket and let me know. Now, you don't ever lose your grade, okay? It's there somewhere. I can find it. But please immediately put a help ticket in it and let me know so that we can get you your grade you need. And that alerts me and has somebody else helping me look, okay? So that's what I would appreciate. Now, we do things with homework grades. When we first come in, we only have on the quizzes and the exams, okay? And in week 6, we turn on to show you how the homework can affect your grade positively or negatively. And then we turn it off again about week 8. And I will not turn it back on until all the students remediate their HESI. Once you do your HESI and you do your remediation, and it's the amount of time that you need, I will be posting that grade in your grade book. If it's not in your grade book, you've not completed your remediation yet. So I'm very good about keep looking and looking and looking and keeping records and records, and try to keep you informed. If you think you're done already, send me a message and I can also look again for you. Maybe you did it after I looked, for the 3rd time that day. So just let me know. Again, talk to me, right? So I just mentioned all that good stuff. Now, quizzes are going to be given in class. Now, This is something newer and online, and it usually was done, during the week, like the weekly assignments, open Monday till Sunday night. So what I have said to do is the first two quizzes I'm going to give the end of the class, which means next week, week 2, you have your first quiz. I will give it the end of the class. So right around 5 o'clock, you'll be getting a quiz. Okay, and it will be online on Zoom. The other quizzes, 3, 4, and 5, will be at the beginning of the class. And the reason why we put it to the beginning of the class is I want to see if you've opened the book, if you've looked at the PowerPoints, if you've studied, so that I know that I'm teaching somebody who has already tried to learn something. Now, the reason why I put it at the end for the first 2 weeks is I want you to see the types of questions. I want you to see where the information comes from. So it is a helping tool for you, okay? It is still 15 minutes. It is still 10 questions, and you can't go backwards. Same as exams, okay? Exams are given through ExamSoft, just like usual. You'll come to class, I'll be looking at your IDs, it will be recorded, and you'll get your exam grades as later on that day, because you're Friday, so you're lucky. I mean, those students who have class on Monday have to wait till you test, because we have to look to see if any of those questions were questions that too many people got wrong, and maybe the question wasn't worded right and we had to throw it out. Okay. And if that happens, we'll throw it out and your grade will just get 2 extra points. So you don't get your grade till all PN courses have tested. So you're my last one. So it's after that I'll be meeting with Dr. Brunel, and we will be looking at all of the exams, and I do statistical data, and we'll be looking to make sure that you had a fair exam, okay? I always want to make sure that you did get a fair exam, and if a question needs to be thrown out, I will throw it out. Now, one of the things that can happen during exams, and sometimes it really panics students, is all of a sudden you have a power outage, your internet goes off, and you didn't finish your exam. No, immediately. You've got my cell phone, text me. Or if you have another way on your cell phone to message me in Canvas, please, that's actually the way that you put a timestamp on it for documentation for Dr. Brown. That's actually the best way. But also you can text me too. Power went out, exams off, I don't know what to do. Well, make sure, even if it comes back up and you've been off for a while, let me know what's going on. I might have to reschedule your exam. You might have to come in later that day, or maybe we can do it on the weekend, but we will finish your exam. Your answers, your grades are never lost. I can go 3 days later if it can't upload. I can get those grades. So never be afraid that, oops, something happened. Oh my God, the exam happened. No, it's not going to be a problem. We can get your grades, okay? If you're taking your quiz even and something happens, immediately stop. Or you see your internet, back and forth, something's going on, stop the quiz, stop the exam, let me know. I can always reset stuff and let you take things, okay? So don't be afraid if something happens, because I can see every click you do on your quiz and your exam. So I can validate that has gone on, okay? If anybody has accommodations, which means extra time on exams or quizzes, I need to know now, as soon as possible. Send me a message in Canvas, and then I will validate that through the dean so that I can set up things differently for you. And if you're one of those with the exams, we need to take another time to do your exam. It can't be during class time, because I will teach after the exam. I will be teaching that week's information there. So please, 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 if you do, let me know. As I said, exams are proctored on Zoom. Make sure your phones are charged or plugged in. We need to look around your environment. We need to look at your IDs. Make sure you don't have any iPhone watches on. Make sure you have nothing in your ears. I mean, I've had students with things in their ears and people are talking to them. and they're talking, you know, because the camera's, the volume's off. They're talking and asking questions to somebody. I mean, I've seen so many different things that I can't even tell you right now. And all you're doing is cheating yourself. Because as nurses, you need to know this information. And you don't need to just get by nursing school. You need to understand it to get by. You know, I'll give you a little hint about me. I wasn't the best student in nursing school in my associate degree. I mean, I had a C average, but I worked hard at it and I didn't cheat. Well, my higher level degrees are all 4.0 A's. Yes, they are. Am I a good nurse? Oh, probably one of the best nurses you'll meet. I was one of those nurses highly respected by physicians, by management, and by my fellow nurses. So your grade doesn't make you who you are. Just work hard at it. Okay. Do the best you can. Reach out, ask for help when you can. I will help you because I know what it's like. I've been there. You think I don't forget about what it was like when I was a nurse in school at age 19? Oh, I do. I really do. Now, missed exams. You must tell me before you're going to miss an exam that has a valid excuse before it happens, okay? It could be funerals, it could be family emergencies, it could be you're in the hospital. Please, as soon as you know you're gonna miss an exam, let me know. If you don't show up the day of an exam and then tell me after, you're going to have to take the exam with a negative 10% deduction off. And I don't want to do that to anybody. I want everybody to get the best grade they possibly can. So I'll tell you again, communicate with me. All right. I will listen. I do listen well. Before the exam, not after, et cetera, et cetera. So any problems, let me know. Now, homework. Again, figure out what you have due, when it's due. Remember, the syllabus is your Bible. I have one of those little calendars on my desk and I write my things on it. You want to do it digitally, whichever way, on your phone, program in when things are due. I don't care. Whatever works for you, use it, okay? I can't tell you the best way to organize you unless you ask, and then I can help. Again, late work without prior approval is still going to be a minus 10%. But if you tell me something's going on, I can work with you. If you don't tell me, I'm going to have to take it off. Once it is 1 week late, it is a 0 and you cannot make it up. Okay? You cannot give me all your case studies or NCLEX questions at the end of the course. I can't take them. I can only take something 1 week late. That is it, okay? NCLEX questions, they're worth a lot. Now, make sure you read in the modules what type of questions I want to do. There are 50 questions, and I want it submitted in a proper format, okay? So if you don't know how to do that, and you send me a picture like this little green square, I will send you as an attachment a little information instruction sheet on how to put it into the format I want, okay? It's a long sheet, it's a PDF. Save the PDF instead of printing it, and it will come to this big thing. And I can see that it's pediatrics and the areas that were supposed to be covered were done. So make sure you do the areas that you want done, okay? NCLEX questions, you can do it over and over and over and over and over again until you get the best score you want. You do not have to remediate NCLEX questions. I want you to get the best scores as you can. Because if you look at it, if there's 4 NCLEX questions due, it's worth 5%. That's 1.25% of your grade. And 1.25% can fail you or pass you. And I've seen it make a difference. Case studies. Now, make sure you go through your modules. All right? Go through the modules. I open them up. For instance, if something is due, like, let's look at this. Let me see you. If you have due, the first case study that you have due is on week 6. It's the complex fracture. I open it up beginning of week 5. I put a due date for the end of week 6, but you have one more week that you can do it, okay? But that one more week you can do it will be minus 10%. So I open it up 1 week before it's due, all right? And you'll see that as you go through it. I like to give you plenty of time to do them, to take your time with them. It's a lot of great information in them. And I want you to get the best grades you possibly can. All practice exams and all of that are also there. Again, go through the modules. Do not try to go to Evolve and try to do them again. It won't work, okay? And you'll have a 0, and I don't want that. Again, if you go through and you do your case study through the modules, you get a 0. Notify me immediately and put a help desk ticket in. If you don't know where the help desk ticket is, I'll let you know. Just let me know where is it, okay? Discussion posts. Please make sure that you're giving me references. Where did you get the information from? Okay, so do your discussion. Tell me about the information it wants to know about. And on the bottom, put a reference. Remember, your book is always a reference. It could be something else too. The other thing is in that body, that paragraph, somewhere put little brackets, parentheses, and inside tell me the book, comma, and the date the book was published. And that shows me that's where that information from that came from. So, and if you don't know how to do it, please, if you need to discuss this during class time for everybody, it's not a problem. I don't go crazy over being nitpicky about it, but I will let you know in comments on your discussion questions. I read your discussion questions and I will tell you how to improve them, okay? There's always a rubric for everything you do. Again, citing the sources means those parentheses with where the book came from. Again, exams and quizzes, we know they're all on class times. Again, any problems, let me know. And then the HESI. Yes, we do have study guides. I love Kahoots to study for our HESIs, okay? I think Kahoots makes you think about a question and helps you to start to understand them. That's why I use Kahoots. I think they're fun. I think they're competitive. I'm going to have 2 students I know that are going to be fighting over each other to win every week, and that's okay. Those Kahoots will be done on those questions from those chapters that we're doing that week. So it's like a re-emphasis. I know if you come to class prepared a little bit, okay, you listen to my lecture and then you do the Kahoots, that's 3 times that you're hearing the same information. And it's been proven that repetition does help you with understanding and memory, because I don't want you to memorize stuff. I want you to think about what's going on, all right? LPNs, as I said, have been my best trainers of my whole career. So I want you to be thinking like that too. Remember, HESIs, there is mandatory remediation, just like last semester that you've seen. And again, scores aren't posted till the remediation's in. And if it's not coming in by when I want it, you're going to be getting messages from me, because I don't want anybody to get a 0 because of no remediation. Again, always stay online, always have your face. Please don't give me any ceiling fans or ceiling lights. I don't want that. And, I'll tell you the basis of how we teach and why. You are future nurses, and nurses need to be able to look at a chart, be able to see what needs to be done, and get those treatments, medications done in a timely fashion. Well, we treat the assignments, we treat the exams and quizzes, we all treat that as professional work. So that's why we're so strict in so many ways, because we want to turn out the best nurses that we can, and we want you to be the best nurses that you want to be, okay? Any questions? Can you be allowed proctor on campus by a teacher? Yes, as long as I have prior notification. I must confirm that teacher with with the teacher, I've got to give her an access code or she won't be able to get in. Okay. So if that works better for you so that you don't have kids running around in your background or you don't have a quiet atmosphere or a good internet connection, yes, you may be proctored by a teacher at school during class time. But remember, there also will be a class after the exam that is your attendance. So you need to be here for attendance, okay? Understood? Okay. Let's go for this week. Now, it's a long PowerPoint. It's all about kids, introduction. Now, the one thing I got to tell you about me and nursing, I have done both pediatrics and I have done adult nursing. So what does that mean for you? I can tell you when there is similarity or differences between adult and pediatric nursing care. And I think that being an adult nurse first has helped me with my pediatric care. And as I've gone back and done adults as when I with pediatrics, I used to do a lot of little extra agencies, go and get some extra money, right? You need some quick money for the holidays, vacation, whatever. I just went back and did an adult thing. I know that children help me take care of adults better. So it is a good switch off here. So I'll be, as we go along and we get into more diagnoses and get into endocrine system and respiratory, I'm going to tell you the differences so that you're like, but that's not like adults. No, remember, children are not little adults. Each child is different. Adults, they're all the same mostly. Children, each one will present differently. And that's why I ended up in pediatrics in the end, because I loved the challenge. So children, growth and development. Now, children grow, and that's the biggest thing. Adults are already there, right? They're already grown. They've already matured. Their cognitive levels are already there. But children start at infants. Let's say they're born at 7 pounds. They can't even lift their head. By 1 year old, they weigh 21 pounds. They've tripled their birth weight and they're walking. So we have done a complete change. So children will grow and then they'll level off. I like to see children, all of a sudden you'll see them grow and all of a sudden they'll get pudgy and then they'll grow again. And I think those are those little stair step, those are those little plateaus that we see of them. And remember, all children mature and develop differently. So remember, if you have a child with developmental problems or needs, we need to understand what that child is, as in get on their cognitive level. I mean, just because they're 3 years old doesn't mean they're cognitively a 3-year-old. Make sure that when you're explaining and trying to do things for a child, you know where they are developmentally. It could be maybe they don't know how to suck on a sippy cup yet and they're 3 years old, or maybe they don't know how to, potty train yet. All of these things are important for us to understand so that we can take care of them. We know that a child differs in anatomy, physiology compared to adults. That's absolutely for sure. And the way that they get sick and respond to them is completely different. You know, you get a child come in to the emergency room, let's say, comes in with an earache and fever, feels horrible and in pain and sitting in the corner, not eating. Give them some Tylenol, give them some Motrin, fever comes down, they're running around and drinking and eating. Adults don't do that. They're going to still sit in the corner and feel bad, right? But a child, so different than an adult. Now, every time we look at a child, we're going to do a height and a weight for many, many different reasons. And the reason why we need to know that is, are they gaining weight appropriately? Are they getting tall appropriately, or too tall, or gaining too much weight? Because interventions will need to be taken. You know, it could be something like getting too tall quickly, it could be something like a pituitary tumor or something, right? So are they too much growth hormones? So there's a lot of things. So height and weight are important. And if we see changes occurring quickly, these are things we must tell our registered nurse, charge nurse, so they can tell the physician so we can have interventions that go on with it. So another thing is, you know, what diagnosis are we going to give these kids? Are they good? Are they healthy? Or do they need some sort of needs? Maybe the parent doesn't know nutrition. Maybe they're feeding them food too quickly as infants, and letting them know why they can't do those things. So we need to analyze these things at all time. So again, biggest part of pediatric nursing is teaching, and not just teaching parents, but teaching children. They love to take care of themselves. They are thirsty for knowledge, and if they know, they will help themselves. And parents, they want to be parents. They want to take care of their children. So make sure that we teach them. I know that as a nurse, I have taught parents and children everything about everything and the reasons why. And I'm telling you, my parents and children have been my best ears and eyes to understanding if there's something going on. And I'm able to intervene quickly if there's a problem. Or, I can get them better quicker because I have parents and children all involved in it. So evaluation, we're always evaluating growth and development. And if we're not up to where we need to be, we're going to be teaching them what needs to be done. If we see a child delayed, they're not, let's say walking by, let's say, 1.5 years, because not all children walk at age 1, but maybe they're still creeping and sort of falling down, trying. Well, still that's almost there. But let's say 1.5 years, 2 years are not walking. Well, we need to take that and let that nurse and that physician know so that we can get some interventions like physical therapy, occupational therapy. Maybe it's not verbalizing, speech therapy. All these things are important. Now, there are some terms that you will hear. Cephalocaudal means that you start going to the way that an infant develops. Cephalo or cephalic means a head, right? So we lift our head first, and then we roll from tummy to back to tummy. And then we also will get on our knees and we'll start rocking, creeping forward, backwards. And then we get up around the couch and walk around, and then we walk. So it starts with cephalo to toe. So we move our head first and then we walk on our feet, okay? Proximal distal, which means we start in the middle and then we move outward. So everything is here first. We want to be tied up as swaddled, but then we are allowed to more movement. So developmental difference, what are we going to see in children? Well, not all kids are the same height. Not all kids are the same weight. Not all of them have big heads, small heads. All of these things are different. Respirations and cardiovascular system, they're in the same ballpark, but not all the same numbers. We know that there can be problems with kidneys or nervous systems. Some kids sleep a lot, and some kids you can barely get to sleep. And we know that those critical periods of when they're supposed to grow could be delayed or advanced. So all of these developmental growth that goes on in children, remember, all can be different. So we know that we're going to go to the doctor, we're going to get a height, we're going to get a weight. And I know that many times we tend to measure that child to another child, the same age and sex. Now, there are similarities, but remember, they're all different. Example, most children walk by the age, well, I've seen them start walking at 6, 7 months, and I'm like, really? 9 months they could start, but usually they say the book by 12 months. My grandchildren, my children never walked. They ran at 15 months. It was like I'm on the phone or saying, she's walking, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they count to 76. I said, that is not walking, that is running. So we know as long as they're moving forward in that progression, we're going to be doing really good. We know that we're doing all these measurements, comparing it to the last measurements. If we're seeing the head keep getting bigger and bigger every time we measure on infants, why? It's actually, the head should start becoming smaller in proportion to the body as they get older. It's getting bigger. What's happening? Is there water on the brain called hydrocephalus? Is there a brain tumor? what's going on. So these measurements are really, really important. We know children who get proper nutrition, and nutrition is the most important thing we can do for all age people, especially that infant. As I said, they triple their birth weight in the first year. They go from not moving ahead, lifting it, to walking by 1 year. So we know that that nutrition has to be good so that we feed the brain, we feed the mind, we feed the body, the muscles, the nerves, so that it can grow well. So good health follows a consistent pattern of growth. They eat right, they're going to grow properly. And we know that there are differences. Now, there are different charts for boys and girls, but young age, they're basically about the same. They say boys maybe a little more, but basically you're going to see them about the same. And that's why you see those little curves and they keep plotting points and you're on the 25 percentile or you're on the 90 percentile for height and weight. It's just to continue to monitor. If we see it drop or go too high, intervention, why? We need to find out why. See, these are your plot growths that we do see. So we do have different screening tests that are always done. And that just has to do on developmental levels. How do they act with people? How do they use fine motor skills? Now, you're going to hear two words in nursing, in development in children: fine motor and gross motor. Fine motor is F fingers, fine. That's pincer grasp, that's grasping, that's reflex grasp, that's palmar grasp, or pincher means using fine motors, or buttoning a button at age 4, okay? Fingers, F. G is gross motor. Get up and go, 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 like the Paw Patrol. Motor, are they walking? Are they jumping, hopping, skipping on one foot, etc.? Okay, so gross motor is movement. It's go, go, go. Fine motor is fingers. So are they able to use their fingers in the manner they're supposed to? Can they button that shirt by age 4 or 5? Or language, we should be able to say, at least one word by 1-year-old. Usually is it going to be mommy or daddy, right? Well, I hope it's Nana for me, right? At this age of my life. And my grandson actually was mama. So I love that one. We also know that if these children are not doing what they're supposed to do, we know we're going to give intervention. And that's why we test it. The resilience of children is amazing. They can take and be very delayed because of whatever reason. Maybe it's nutrition. And then we change their diet. Maybe the formula wasn't right. Maybe they're spitting up too much, something. They're not getting nutrition. We can change them from being delayed and catch them up and even go ahead of other children. So noticing these things are so important. There's also other things that can affect growth and development. It could be, your heredity, your nationality, your race, where you are in the position in the family. What if you are the 6th kid with with 5 kids in front of you? I mean, you might be the last one left out. The first kid tends to be babied more. I mean, that's just reality because it's the first kid. As you keep having more, it tends to be less of concern, and it can make a difference. Not saying it always does. Males and females, and of course, if you're in healthy environments or unhealthy environments, whether there's a lot of yelling and screaming or alcohol or drug abuse, all of those environments, or homelessness, etc. Those things can make big differences. So family-centered care is what pediatrics is. We have to know that the family can adapt when a child is sick or needs help, or when they have a child, what they need to do. They need to work together. And we need to teach them so they can grow. And we may have to make sure that these children are loved. Many times children are born and newborn, and maybe they have a birth defect, like a cleft lip. And the mother looks and goes, oh, I don't want to touch this baby. And they don't know what to do. I'm going to wrap that kid up, sit them down, put the baby in that mother's arms and say, wow, that curly hair is amazing on that kid. Look at those cheeks. I'm going to pull attention away to promote that bonding, that affection, that resolve. This is my baby, okay? These are things nurses do. So many things have on growth and development. It's how much money you have in the family. Of course, that does with nutrition, right? Support system. If you have families that can help each other, somebody's always there at home when you come home and help you get up to go to school in the morning, or there for you. School emergencies, school or emergency department. Sometimes this is the only contact with healthcare. And sometimes that is the person who finds out what's going on in the family. I know that I have seen some deficiencies in families, and not because they don't want to work hard. I live in Homestead. I live in South Florida. I live a half an hour from the Keys. And there is a lot of migrants who live down here because there's a lot of fruits and vegetables that are farmed here. And we have the fall planting system into early winter. So they come from up north and they come back down here. So I know that some of them don't have food and housing or education, and sometimes insurance. What do? Well, I make sure the social worker gets involved, and I get the insurance and financial planner with them and help them find resources to help them to take care of their children. And it has made a difference. We know personality has to do with, number one, the family you're born to, but the family they live with. If your family, all they see is love and hugs and kisses, this kid's going to be a lover and a hugger and a kisser. I know my grandson lived with me for his first 3 years of life. And that kid, all he knows is hugs and kisses. And he goes to anybody and smile on his face. He's the happiest kid. I mean, he's in kindergarten now, and everybody knows him because he's a hugger, he's a lover, and he's a happy kid, because that's what he grew up with. I know that there's times where, there's divorce that happens in the young families. And, I'm a divorced woman too. So I know what it's like. Children can be affected by it. So understanding that not all children are going to be the happy kids. Sometimes they, because of their environment, have learned that this is the behavior. So it's us as nurses to try to get on their level and try to build a bond, because they usually are not trusting. Now we're going to be going into some theorists, and theorists basically, like you've heard of Freud before. It just talks about behaviors of kids, okay? And what do these things mean? And I'm going to try to get it simple from you about those things. And we'll go into those more as we go into infants and toddlers, etc. So we know at birth, a child's task is to adjust to the external environment. They've been in this nice, cozy little place, and now all of a sudden they're out in this world and all these noises and these sounds. We know that parents, their job is to make sure that a child, an infant, a newborn infant, has all of its needs met. Their diapers are changed, that they're fed properly, that they're held when they need to, that they're not overfed, that they're kept clean and they're hugged and burped, etc. This is what a parent's task is. As a nurse, and I worked in newborn ICU for many years. I worked newborn ICU and pediatric ICU, and probably the hardest where I used this most was the cardiac intensive care unit. These children, newborns are born, many of the time they didn't know the kid had a bad cardiac condition. And I had to encourage these parents, these are intubated, they have IV tubes coming out of everywhere, to touch that child, maybe comb their hair with a little brush, or maybe put a little bow in a little girl's hair, or bring in some socks for me so we can put them on, or give me those cute little baby blankets. These things help, okay? And having parents there talking with them, just touching them in that manner can really help. Infant's reflex, first one is a reflex grasp reflex. It's called a palmar, a reflex palmar grasp. When you put your finger in an infant newborn's hand, they're going to grasp it. It is a reflex, okay? So parents love it. They go, oh, look, my baby hugged me. It's a reflex. I'm never going to tell them that, but they just say, wow, my baby does love me. And that it gets that bonding going on. The child has to develop trust, and that is done by all their needs are being met, right? So we need to, as parents, as nurses, teaching these parents, help them to understand what an infant needs if they need that help. There's some that take over it easy and some that don't. I know that as a grandparent with a child in this house, I had to learn how to step back and let my daughter do what she wanted, and I didn't tell her what to do. To this day, I will not tell her what to do. Something's going on, he's with me, I'll say, Mom, this is what's going on. What do you want to do? For instance, about a month ago, he got a big laceration right in his eyebrow. And it would bled, of course, because it's the head. And it was right in the eyebrow. I said, you can do two things. I don't care what you want. I said, I've already taken care of it, so don't worry about that. I can take him to the hospital, get stitches, or you can just take and put like a little steri strip and just keep it closed. It's in the eyebrow. It's not going to make any difference. You want him to go through the stitches or you want me to do that? And her decision was, Mom, put the steri strip on. He doesn't need to go through all that. And it healed up well because it's right in the eyebrow. You don't really see it. So again, having parents taking care of their child is most important, not the grandparents. Now, in some sort of cultures, like the Hispanic, which I work with a lot down here in South Florida, the abuela or grandmother is the one who's always trying to be in charge of the children. It's just the culture. So a toddler. Now, a toddler needs to have autonomy, which means they need to be able to explore. What happens in parents, they try to stop them from doing things so that they don't fall. I call toddlers the dive bomb kids. They're going to take and get on top of the couch and try to jump to the next couch or jump to a pillow on a floor, and it's too far and you know it, and there's a tile floor and they're going to bop their head. Well, you need to let them try. You need to say, you're going to hurt yourself. If you want to try it, go ahead, but you're going to cry. I mean, as long as it's something that's not life-threatening, right? But it's hard when you have a toddler to let them go and explore, okay? And to let them see things and touch things. It does make a difference in a child's cognition. They learn better when they explore for themselves. In preschool, it's now the child needs to do what they want to do and you need to let go. And, all of these things are talking more on the theorists, which we call Erickson. And sometimes we need to let this child do what they need to do. And preschool is a great thing for these ages 3 to 5, up till they get into kindergarten. And letting those children here, there's your dirty laundry, they're on the floor. Why aren't they in the hamper? Or why are your shoes in the middle of the floor? Go put them where they need to be put. Or why did you take your socks off and throw them? Or did you wash your hands when you went to the bathroom? I mean, these are things that let the kid be a kid. Of course, you're going to question them, but, make sure that they learn what they need to do. In school age, it's very important in school age to be able to do things and do it well. But we know that there are kids that are good at sports and some kids that are good at schoolwork. And school age children want to be great at everything, but they're not. So it's a frustration. But when we are telling a school age child to do something, we want to do something that is appropriate that they can succeed at. So you wouldn't tell them to do something that they can't finish. So maybe it's, why don't you take and dust the house for me? Or here's the instructions, could you start dinner for me? If you've been teaching them, because instructions will be able to do it and they've watched you before. But make sure that it's something they can do, it's on their level, that they're not going to fail at. Because school age is industry, which is what they can do well, and then what they can't. And we don't want them to be feeling like, I just can't do these things. You want to give them that self-esteem. So We know that in school age that we need to know that a child is learning what they can do, and they need to learn when they should or shouldn't. Like they need to have that self-discipline with it. We're here guiding children as school age children, but we can't be that one who's constantly badgering and talking to them. They need to try to be the best they can be. School age children are pleasers most of the time. They want to please, they want to get those strokes, that warm, oh, you've done great. They want those rewards. Adolescents, I think, are the most difficult of all of the stages because, now they're grown up and they want to be their own little humans, but they also have issues that are going on. The biggest thing with adolescents is establishing their identity, their body image. Think about you as an adolescent: too many pimples, too fat, too skinny, hair's too curly, too straight, too whatever, right? So are you the music nerds? Are you the school nerds? Are you the sports people? Are you who? Who's your identity? What do I want to be? And then you're growing, you're getting your menstrual cycle, you're getting, more built up, all those pubertal changes. You're thinking more, and now you gotta, what am I going to be when I grow up? My career, worry about high school and getting everything done. And, not understanding not everybody can be trusted, and being hurt, and the boyfriend cheated with your best friend and all that great stuff. So parents need the kid to be able to do what they want to do, but also they need to, have that control. And if they can't, they need to sit down and have a conference. Like, you can't be coming in at 10 o'clock at night. You need to be in by 9 on the weekend, or maybe 10 on the weekend, whatever it is. Set up, if you do these things, then yes, you can. That helps, as for a parent. And nurses, that you'll hear a lot from parents. I just don't know how to handle this kid. I don't know what to do. And just trying to give them some insight. And they will ask, how did you get this child to do whatever? You see, it seems so easy. And we know adolescents, there's a lot of listening, not being shocked by the crazy things that they will tell you. And adolescents, I said, they're unto themselves. So we know that during life in Erickson, which is what all those things were, that each of those tasks must be done, that they must have their, needs met, that trust at first, and they need to be able to explore, and then they need to be able to be themselves and to be the best they can be. All of these things are very important for a child to grow up mentally very healthy. Their intellectual ability, this is all about Piaget. Is the other theorist. And it all has to do with cognition and thinking and critical thinking. For instance, sensor-motor, the first stage, is you give a child a rattle. And first of all, they're going to reflex hold it. But then they learn to voluntarily get that rattle. Then all of a sudden, they shake it for some reason when they hear noise, and they like it. So what they do is they go back and they do it again and again and again. This is learning. There's the rattle. Let me grasp it. If I move it, it makes noise. So this is all about learning, and this all has to do with different stages of growing up. Now, Kohlberg is all about good and bad and a consequence for each. You'll see many children, know that they can do that or they can't do that. And they know that if they do something they're not supposed to do, there'll be a punishment, whether it's timeout or a privilege taken away, whatever it is. And as we become school-age children, they say, well, I shouldn't do that, but I really need to. So I know this is going to happen, but I'm going to do it anyway. So again, it's thinking, it's, weighing, does this work for me or not? We know that children need to have challenges. They need to have disappointments. They need to have successes. They need to have failures. This is part of the learning process. Not everything can be roses all the time, because that's not what the real world is. The parent's tool, their task, is to provide the child to have the ability to be able to handle these things as they grow up and move without the house. Now, some families for whatever reason, don't think that, healthy food is a priority. It could be all about finances. We know that nutrition, not enough, can lead to delayed cognition or mental retardation. Absolutely, it can. Also, because it feeds the muscles and the nerves at decreased motor. They're not going to be able to be running by 2 years. They could be even delayed like that. So helping these families to understand what they need for nutrition is important. We do not restrict fat on children. They need it. And the reason for is they need this extra calories for development of their central nervous system. Extra calories, extra fat, they're growing so quickly, they need all of this, okay? We know that there are children that for whatever reason, ever diagnosis, they can't get enough nutrition. These are those children that will have some parental nutrition, or they'll have a central line IV, and they'll be getting maybe at nighttime that super concentrated sugar and all of those vitamin and minerals, infused at night with lipids or fat. And then during the day, maybe it's tube feedings, extra supplements. So nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. Without nutrition, a child's not going to grow the way they should. We know a kid who doesn't eat enough, is going to be screaming, yelling, and crying, and we're going to see it on the scale. That's why we weigh them all the time. A kid that's overfed is going to be spitting up all the time, may have a little diarrhea because they can't handle all this food, and you're going to see that weight gain. So as again, why do we do heights and weights every visit? Whether it's a doctor's office, urgent care, ER, we want to see if they're growing properly. High fat can cause abdominal distension. Remember, fat causes gas. So be very careful with it. We know high carbs, the biggest thing, of course, you'll have the gas too, but weight gain. And then if we give too much of certain things, it can cause constipation. So a well-rounded diet. Now, whole milk, we do introduce at 1 year old, okay? We will give only breast milk or iron fortified formula at 6 months old. Then we'll introduce food at 6 months old, usually starting with rice cereal because it's the one that's least allergy prone. And then we will, because we're going to feed them the food first, and then we'll give them the milk, whether it's breast or a bottle, because we want them to try to eat food. And then they're going to start to be weaned off of breast or milk. And then at 1 year, we're going to be putting on regular milk. And then about 2 years old, we'll put them on low fat, depending on their height and their weight. They should be able to feed themselves. They like that sense of independence, right? They want to pick and get what they want. And they should be sit there and able to do what they want. We're going to go over toddlers. They're the most pickiest eaters, and they don't eat much. And parents worry that they're not getting enough, but they do. They really do in the end. Finger foods are fun, whether it's little tiny little pieces of hot dogs cut in little tiny little regular shapes, or whether it's those little puff balls we have, or little pieces of broccoli, whatever it is. Children like to take little pieces, depending on their age, what size pieces and what they get. Kids initially don't eat sweets. It's when they get introduced because their taste palate isn't there yet. So if we're going to start to feed them initially, we need to keep away from those sweets. And, ice cream, yeah, it's great. But all of a sudden, this is like, I want ice cream. And they don't want to eat regular food. So make sure that we give proper calories, because ice cream is empty. It really is. It doesn't have all of those protein, calcium, vitamins, et cetera, that they need. As we know that children are constantly playing. I mean, what do a child do from the morning they're up till down, except for nap time and sleeping and eating? They play and they play and they play and they explore and they get into everything, right? That's what they do. That's a large amount of energy, so we need to feed them. So very important. We know that children have, they're getting more bigger. Childhood obesity, it has doubled in 30 years. And a lot of times it has to do with, today children would rather sit there with a video game, an iPad, a TV, stay inside than go outside. It also could be something to do where they live. Maybe it's not safe to be outside, or maybe there's no backyard. Maybe they live in an apartment complex, and the apartment, you don't want them out. So they're not moving as much. And today we know that if you're lucky to have a two-parent household, it's just, you're just making it by with that. And, fast food becomes an easy choice for dinner. We know that. So we know that children are getting bigger. So we need to be careful in nutrition and the way that we feed them, especially as we get into school age, because child who's obese in school age are that precursor for type 2 diabetes as they get older, high cholesterol, and high blood pressure. And we do measure by BMIs. So many children that go to the hospital, they're sick, especially today. You go to the hospital, you are sick. So they really don't want to eat. So make sure that we try to feed them foods that they're going to want to eat, depending what they can eat during it. As we are a nurse and looking for diets, make sure, does this child have teeth yet? Can they eat hot dogs yet? No teeth, no hot dogs, okay? Sometimes cavities in the mouth can cause them not to eat. Or maybe they have a sore in their mouth. It's like the side of the mouth got a little, canker sore or something in there. So make sure that we understand if there's something that's going on that makes us not being able to eat. And then, does the kid have the motor skills to use their hands or use a spoon to be able, maybe they need help. A tablespoon of food for each year of age is a good guide to follow when feeding a child, which you're going to say it's not much. But children, especially that school age, that toddler child, they really don't need a lot of food. They really don't. But just don't give them those empty calories. Don't just give them, the Cheetos, and, apple juices. Make sure they're getting proper nutrition, okay? Another thing that we need to remember, children explore the world through their mouths, starting as infants. Now, in my career, I have seen back and forth, on does a child need a pacifier? Well, what they have found out and what the theorists say is that a child can self-soothe themselves by sucking on a pacifier. They also explore the world with their mouth. Look at a kid. What do they do with toys? In the mouth, right? I call daycare where they swap spit. They go one toy from one kid to the next kid in the mouth, in the mouth, in the mouth. So a child who cannot eat for, let's say they're post-op, maybe they're sick, whatever, make sure they have something to suck on. They can self-soothe that way. Again, they're starting to get teeth. You need to brush them, or at least with a warm washcloth, keep them clean at the end of the night. No bottles, no food in the crib at night for them so that their teeth doesn't get sugar on them. And remember, these teeth are going to come in at all different ages. They say you start getting a tooth about at age 6 months. Well, again, my kids never got teeth until 15 months, and then they got 6. There's a little formula that says age in months. So let's say you're 8 months old, minus 6. They should have 2 teeth. But it doesn't mean every kid's going to be that way. Make sure that if they have those foods that can stick to their teeth, that we clean them, that they don't eat sugary things. They've got those cheese sticks now that are great. Milk. As they get older, they're saying sugarless gum. I just don't even give them gum. Raw vegetables they love to bite, and that they should brush after every meal. Now, I didn't know this information when my firstborn son was born, and they didn't have sippy cups, and he'll be 40 this year. And he used to carry the bottle of apple juice in his mouth on the nipple in his round. You see those teeth down there? His almost looked like that. He had the bottle mouth. And he brushed his teeth, but he always had the apple juice in his mouth. So that can happen very easily, even to someone like me. It did happen to my kid. So before bedtime, you should brush them, just water to start with, no toothpaste or anything. Again, I like to the washcloth or use even my fingers, and you should always, because of kids are always getting sick, always change their toothbrush every 3 months. Okay, and make sure that it's in a closed container so they don't get anybody else's germs, because kids are more apt for infection than older people. Play is the work of children, right? This is where they learn their creative expression. There are playrooms. I mean, Nicholas Children's, which is the big hospital where I worked at down here. It's big children's, internationally known place. And I love their playroom. I go up there, when I was teaching clinicals for some nursing students. And it was so much fun. Kids who are there that for whatever reason, but don't have anything that's sick, no fevers, no draining wounds, etc., can go there. They go up there and they play, and it helps them relieve the stress of the hospitalization. It makes fun. They had Radio Lollipop, which was through their TVs, and they'd have games, and then volunteers would come to hand out prizes. It's a lot of fun. They had Mario Brother little video game little carousel that we would wheel around. Of course, more than one or two in the whole hospital. Children should be playing, and they need to play on their developmental level. Okay. And remember, some kids, when they're sick, there's things they can do or can't do. And, make sure, for instance, if a child has asthma, you don't want to have this stuffed animal with stuff can fly into the air, get into their lungs, and create an asthma attack. So just remember those things. Kids can get all sorts of diagnoses: asthma, cystic fibrosis, thyroid disease, hemophilia, seizures. They can even have bulimia in the adolescent ages, and it can affect their teeth. Okay, making sure that we take and clean them well, make sure that they do get dental care, and make sure that, we're monitoring their gums and their teeth. So now let's go into infants, okay? Let's go developmental stages. What do you see? So we need to know about children. These are the norms. Now remember, norms are normal for this child. Every child has their own norms, okay? And all of these things are different, okay? How much are they awake? How much do they sleep? When do they smile? When do I drink from a cup? And separation anxiety. This is when you take the kid the first day to bring it to daycare, and they turn around, put their arms out for mommy or daddy, and start crying when the caregiver takes them away. That's separation anxiety. Or go into a doctor's office and the doctor wants to hold the child and they don't want to go, and they turn around and reach for mom. That's separation anxiety. So in growth and development, there should be a constant moving forward of development. And I'll tell you, there's fine motor development and gross motor development. So as long as it's moving forward, you're doing good. Now, if it's not moving forward, we need to have it developed and looked at. For instance, if you have a child who can't lift his head up by 3 months, it needs to be told to the RN, charge nurse, or the doctor to say, this kid's not even lifted his head yet, so that we can institute early intervention, physical therapy, speech therapy, occupational therapy. Knowing what a pulse on a child is very important. So an infant, his pulse at birth is 140 to 160. By the time they get to be 1 year old, it's between 100 and 118. We can take a temperature axillary up in the 1 year, and a blood pressure normally 90 to 60. At birth, it could be 60 over 40. Okay, knowing the differences. Respirations are abdominal, okay? And they breathe out of their mouths. They don't breathe out of their noses. Again, sucking gives them comfort. It's their stress reliever. So you have a kid who's fussy, give them a pacifier. There's some parents who don't like them, but and I didn't like them as a, back then because that's when they didn't. But I still know that sometimes that they did need something because it did help them. Remember, if a kid can't eat or on IV or different stuff, remember they need that for self-soothing, okay? And they go from not using their hands at all to wanting their hands, wanting to see it and to suck on them and touch and whatever. So know that as they get older, you need to let those hands go. Grasp reflex, you go from that reflex to voluntary, okay? So voluntary is about 3 months old. And prehension is also that grasping with those fingers. It goes from this crude thing and swoosh it in the mouth. It could be put those little puffs or Cheerios on the table and you swoosh it in the mouth, right? Well, then it goes to getting one at a time, all right? That's pincer grasp. So it goes prehension to pincer and then parachute. Ever have a kid who fears falling, you're going to see their legs and their hands come up. It's just a normal reflex. Usually it's closer to 9 months than 7 months, but it's usually up there so that when they're falling, they actually protect their heads. So remember, trust, the consistency is very important to a healthy child, and we know a child that cries and somebody responds, these children are going to be less aggressive and better behavior as toddlers. We know that infants, that we let them do their tasks as they can without being forced, actually will do it quicker. And we also know that infants, you think infants don't know anything. Let me tell you, infants can put you around their little fingers, even the little tiny little premature ones, I've learned. Just know when they're ready, they will let you know in their own little ways. So you need to look for them. Sensory stimulation is really important, whether it's rattles, maybe it's those little mobiles over their heads, and it really helps with cognition and learning and seeing. A crying child should be soothed, whether talk to them, give them a pacifier, hold them. If they're hungry and if half an hour before they're due to eat, feed them. The only time that you would see them all the time eating, and they're overweight, then maybe you need to give them the pacifier and hold them and rock them a little bit first, or whatever the physician says as an alternative. Children, infants, can feel your inner peace or not. If you're in a hurry and you're trying to get things done, I'm telling you, infants know it. I used to have the most infants in newborn ICU crying and fussy, and nobody could put them to sleep. And I worked the night shift for 20 some odd years, working in the cardiac, newborn and PDICU. And I would be given these infants and I would hold on that baby and just sit there and just, do my little thing, just hold them, maybe bounce a little bit, maybe rub their backs, and they'd always fall asleep on me. And they're like, how did you do that? I'm like, well, I'm a baby whisperer. And I'll still say that to this day. I'm a baby whisperer because my inner soul is very peaceful and I wasn't stressed. And I didn't let that affect anything. My intention was to be calm for that infant. As I said, no two infants are the same. I don't care if they're twins. They're both different. And everything happens, slowly. And it's not going to, all of a sudden, they're going to roll over, lift their head up. It's going to be a progress of that attempts first, okay? So children, just know that growth and development, it's part of them to help them, to have the proper toys, to play with them so that they can grow. Children, whether irritable or lethargic, and a lot of the same interventions are done. Irritable children, like I said, they're hard to soothe. Sometimes the baby is sleeping too much. Basically, they shut the world out. Have you ever, upset at the world? Just go in, take a nap, go in your bed, disappear. Well, that's what this baby does, and they can do it. Also know that Bright lights do bother infants. A lot of it's been said they don't see well as newborns. Well, they know when there's bright lights going on. They may not see colors as sharply, but they see the lights. They say with a child with colic, do not sing, do not hum, just sit there and just rock. Or maybe, that white noise we have today on the phone that some play, just very quiet and just talk to them, very quietly, have them snug, give them a pacifier, and no sudden jerky moments. And this is going to help with colic. I think colic is one of the most difficult things for parents to work with because it can be the first 3 to 6 months that these kids have it. And it's no fault of a parent. It's just some kids are colicky. So there's all sorts of remedies. There's little, those little gas drops, rocking them, not overfeeding them, changing formulas. There's all things that can be done. As I said, children that are overstimulated will shut down. They want that calm voice. That's why they don't like the fighting and yelling in the household, right? They like that calm voice. They want you to take your time when you're working with them, giving them baths and, just doing little places slow or changing their diaper slowly and dressing them. This all helps infants. Newborn infants, full term, I might say, not the premature. Full time will probably sleep once they get on a routine, about 4-hour intervals. And by 4 to 6 months, hopefully they'll sleep up to 8 hours so mommy can sleep too. They do learn the circadian rhythm of the parents. The parents are up all night long. You work night shift when you were pregnant, most likely the baby might be awake all night long too. It's just they understand what the parents are. So being changing them. Remember, we only put a baby on their back to go to sleep. There are programs today called Back to Sleep, and we have seen the incidence of sudden infant death syndrome decrease drastically by just putting them on their back, not on their sides, because they rebreathe their carbon dioxide. So that turned out to be bad too. So only on their back, and you give them a pacifier. They can self-soothe. Infants need to go for those periodic health checks, and they need vaccinations at the appropriate times. It could be at 2 months, 4 months, 6 months, and 1 year, 15 months, 18 months, 2 years. And it's important because what is that physician going to do? They're not sick in between, and it could be a child is not sick in between. My grandson never was on an antibiotic till he was 4 years old. So he was never sick. So my daughter had him to the doctor, as needed for vaccinations, and looking at the growth and development, making sure that they where they need to be. So that's the important thing. So diapers, make sure they're changed when they're soiled, because you don't want diaper rashes, which hurt and burn. And again, always monitoring that growth, okay? That growth, height, weight, very important to monitor. They're getting proper nutrition, getting enough or getting too much. And always nutrition, nutrition, nutrition. I mean, how do we know if a child's getting enough fluid and nutrition? Well, you're going to see wet diapers, aren't you? So if you have wet diapers 6 a day, you're good. And if you don't see that, there's a problem. So physical examination, at least 5 times the first year. They're going to be doing hearing and vision. They do hearing before they leave the hospital today. Any screening tests, metabolic disease, sickle cell disease, whatever it could be, they're going to be checking for. Again, looking at those growth grids, immunizations, making sure that they're eating properly, which is monitored by what? Height and weight. That's how we can monitor it. And of course, educating parents. Again, I can't tell you enough that early intervention is how we catch these children up very quickly, and they will not be held back. And sometimes the community has things where you can go to. I know that some of the hospitals have baby massage and things like that, which helps with soothing, etc. So using those community resources, are important. Use whatever you can that can help. Again, earlier the better. So immunizations, timing should be there. The reason is babies are born with mommy's immune system and it wears off. That's why the first immunization we give is hepatitis B at birth, usually at the hospital before they leave. And then at 2 months, you're going to give, a whole bunch. 4 months, the same again. 6 months again, because we're trying to build that child up against those really horrible diseases, diphtheria and pertussis and tetanus, etc. These things need to be treated. So making sure they get immunizations is really important. I mean, sometimes you get delayed because of sicknesses, but keeping them as accurate as we can. We know, and keeping records, especially if you're one of those parents that need to move. I know families in the armed services that are always moving camps. We really need them to have them so that we can make sure they get their immunizations on time. All right, never mind. Solid foods, as I said, will be started at 6 months. At 6 months of age, we're going to be starting, as I said, rice cereal. Why don't we feed them before them any foods? Well, their GI system is not ready for it. And you will just see undigested food in their stools if, it's not 6 months. Another thing is they get this gagging reflex as a younger infant. So when you put this rice cereal, you put it in the back of their tongue and they suck it first, and then they start the up and down and the chomping. So at 6 months, they start foods. And the thing about starting foods is start with the rice cereal because there's less allergies. And then we'll work up into fruits or vegetables, whatever the doctor says. And you'll introduce one every 4 to 7 days. So prior to teaching about infant nutrition, know what the mother knows about it. Know where the kid is. Developmentally, are they able to? Because remember, there are some syndromes that children just can't. They don't have, the mouth, like Pierre Robin, like the George syndrome. There's certain things that, infants can't. So knowing that, and if they're ready for it. And then finding out the parents' culture. What foods would they want them to eat? What are important for them, and if it's possible, so they can incorporate their culture into the feeding practices. So as again, how do we know, if they're doing well? Well, as long as they're gaining 4 to 7 ounces per week, as long as they've doubled their birth weight by 6 months, tripled it by 1 year. Also, they're sleeping, they're happy, they're not cranky. And again, those 6 wet diapers per day. Human milk's the best, or iron fortified formula for the first year. And then after that, whole milk after a year. Now, prebiotics, probiotics, these are something that we give children with chronic diarrhea, and it helps stop diarrhea. In fact, you take your infant 2, 3 years old today, has diarrhea, you take him to the doctor. What he's going to do is tell you to cut back on your diet, no spicy, no fatty, no fried foods, and it's going to give you probiotics, which will help the intestines and the GI tract become better, and you're going to see the stools get more hard, stiff, and then you could stop the probiotics. So probiotics. Bottle feeding. Now, number one, you're giving formula. Make sure the formula is not expired. Make sure it is stored properly and that these are cleaned properly. We totally discourage any bottle from going in a microwave. Put it in a bowl of hot water and let it get warm that way. What they feel is you put it in a microwave and
why you keep peeing on yourself?
Whoops. Gotcha. And do not save in between bottles, okay? So if you have a little bit left, throw it out. If a kid is sick, you're never going to give new foods because it can cause allergic reactions. As I said, rice cereal is the first food. And you're not going to mix cereal or any baby food in the bottle because we want to know how much that kid eat. We want to try to get that tongue and that get them into the chomping up and down. And there are some things they do delay because of the possibilities of allergies. You know, they're changing their minds about peanut butter and egg whites. But as of now in the book, orange juice, fish, nuts, strawberries, chocolate, and egg whites. Do not give those kids until they're later on in life. As I said, new foods should be given before you give milk. Let them eat as much as they will and then supplement with the milk. You don't want to give the milk, then they're not going to eat the food. And you want them to eat these other nutrients. Infants, as I said, they're all about growing so quickly. They're going to eat more calories than an adult does per kilogram of weight. We know they need fats for the brain, for development. We know they can't eat till 6 months, and then the GI tract can digest fats and food and make it to something they can work with, and a well-balanced diet. And this fat should continue up to 2 years old. You know, breastfeeding helps an infant from not being sick. And don't overfeed a kid. You know, you're overfeeding a kid, you're going to see them, you know, irritable. They're going to be spitting up, reflux. So, you know, breastfeeding 10 minutes each breast, that's fine. They're done. As long as, again, you're getting 6 wet diapers, you know they're feeding properly. Now, kids, you're going to know when they're ready to eat. You know, sometimes they're going to look at a spoon, eat it the wrong way. You know, let them experiment with it. As long as they're sort of getting food in their mouth, it's fine. I know that I used to give foods at dinner time. And when they were done with dinner, they always went in the bath because it would be head to toe. And that's part of exploration and, you know, creativity that they work with and textures in the hands, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we know that they're ready to eat when, like, for instance, you start seeing your nipples bit. Well, that's time that give them some food so they're not going to bite me anymore because it's going to continue. And it's gradual, you know, weaning them off of the breast. So organic, natural foods, it doesn't have any additives. It's no difference than other foods, but, you know, make sure that you read labels on foods that you're going to give your children. New solid foods, again, is before milk because you want them to eat. So feeding, usually it's 6 months. Their sucking is better. They can munch better, and then they can eat. Again, don't give them when they're ill. Fruit juices, usually between 5 to 6 months of age, especially if the kid's got one of those sippy cups because it's a new experience for them. No orange juice yet. Rice cereal first. Start with just a teaspoon. You don't need a whole bowl, just a little bit. Start them then working on, like, I opened this whole jar, they ate nothing. Well, take a teaspoon out, put it in a bowl, close it up, put it in the refrigerator for next time, okay? And allergies could be simple as a rash, vomiting, or diarrhea. Car seat should be rear facing up to the age of 2. Usually they are 30 pounds by age 2. Now, I was in this predicament where my grandson only weighed 25 pounds at age 2. He was a peanut, still is a peanut. And we checked, and because it's the motor they're worried about, we could turn him around in the rear facing. So we were front facing car seat at age 2. Remember, safety, safety, safety. Kids can turn over. My grandson was rolling over at 2 weeks old at the doctor's office. So make sure that they have the straps on changing tables, or that they're on a couch. They can roll over on the floor. Be very, very careful. These cribs rails should be up. They do the craziest things. They can get out. Stairways and pools, be very careful with. There should be locks on doors or a fence around pools. Toy safety, no small parts. It's like not under the age of 3, small parts, because they will. How do they explore the world? In their mouth, and they will choke on it. I've seen it. So weight doubles by 6 months, triples by 1 year. Their head circumference at birth is huge. It's bigger than their chest. By 1 to 1.5 years, they should be the same. So if they're not, why is the head still bigger? So that will make, maybe it's hydrocephalus, right? Water on the brain. Remember, mom gives them iron initially, but her stores are going to be worn off. So we need to make sure we have iron in their diet, green leafy vegetables, right? When they're born, they can't see to pick something up. They don't have that depth perception. They sort of go in that angle, like they still have one eye working in one eye. It's binocularity, it's called. And it doesn't come to one till about 6 months old, till 9 months old. By 4 months, they should be able to roll over, okay? 1 year, they should be able to take some steps or close to doing it. And we know that reflex palmar grasp is going to turn into, I want that rattle, or I want that toy. So it becomes voluntary. And as I said, you might see tooth beginning about 6 months. So that's your infants. And now we're going to go to toddlers. So toddlers are ages 1 to 3. I call these my dive bomb kids. These are your explorers. You've heard of the terrible twos, right? This is where rapid growth development, and they're really starting to learn. It is shame versus doubt, which is, I want to try to do something, but mommy's telling me not to, okay? Shame versus doubt, like, should I do that? Can I do that? Major parental responsibility is safety, making sure that they're in an environment where they cannot hurt themselves, because you can't monitor them at every single second of the day. Always let that kid know that you're cute, you got cute freckles. I mean, my little grandson had ears the size of Yoda, okay? And we always called him our little Yoda man. So he knew he had ears, but he didn't know they were bad. We just called him our little Yoda man. In fact, he dressed up as Yoda for his second Halloween and went out as Yoda. So always that positivity and negativity. These children, it's all about no, no, no. You ask them to do something, no. And it's all mine, me. This is mood swings. These are toddlers. They're starting to learn self-control, what I can do, what I can't do, okay? And they're starting to, be vocal about themselves. The one thing about toddlers, they love rituals or a schedule. They like to be on the same schedule. Ever have a 2-year-old, take them on vacation and you break their schedule. They don't get their nap when they're supposed to. They're not getting the food they're normally eating. They're not going to be good kids because they're confused, right? So keep them on a schedule and have them doing things like take your underwear or take your shoes and put them where they belong. Or here's your cup, go put it in the sink. Kids like to do stuff like that. Give them something. By 2.5 years old, their weight quadruples. So it was triples by age 1, right? Now it's another 1.5 years later. So growth slows down quite a bit, okay? Their head and their trunk grows, they become more muscular, they're becoming more and more less clumsy, more agile, being able to move more. Their muscles are maturing, and their bowel and bladder control is usually complete by about 2.5 to 3 years old, and that's all about potty training. Respirations are still abdominal at the younger toddlers. That then becomes more of, the chest, the thoracic area. We have teeth going up for all this time, still all the baby teeth, the deciduous, and they're becoming more immune. They're built up and immune, so they're able to fight off more viruses and diseases than they did before due to the exposure and due to all of their immunizations. Their stomach digestion is getting up. They want 3 meals a day and maybe snacks in between. They still need help with motor and sensory, but they want to do it themselves. So let them have that opportunity. Only help them when they need. They're remembering things. I think this is a big thing in my grandson. He could remember things from 3 years, 2 years old that I'm like, I don't even remember where that toy went. It's memory. They start to remember where things are and what to look for and what I promised we do or something. It's like, oh my goodness. They're starting to understand things and assimilate it, and they're starting to know what they need to do to get the attention they want. They can be away from mom and dad a lot easier now, so that, separation anxiety has decreased because they know it's going to happen and they know mom and dad's going to come back, and they're going to know what good behavior is. And they're going to know good behavior, bad behavior, and the consequence for each. They are going to understand body parts, but not elbows and knees yet. It's the ears, the nose, the eyes, the mouth, the feet, the hands, and it gets to be more specific as they get older. They are going to be starting to be able to be potty trained, and they're going to know when there's good behavior and bad behavior. And they say, try not to over punish these kids, praise them. And if they have to be on timeout, it's 1 minute per year old, and that's all it should be. But it shouldn't be the first thing that you do. They're understanding, but they can't verbalize yet. They're still on a couple words. They're not paragraphs yet. So they're trying to express what they want, but it's hard. They know if somebody looks at them and they're mean, they know they've done something wrong, or if you're smiling, that you've done something right, and as you are frustrated trying to understand this toddler, they're frustrated trying to tell you. So make sure that you know that also. So sometimes a child is autistic. Now, we do not diagnose them till about 2 to 3 years old. There are delays going on. So there are clues, there are hints that we might see that would put them into going and looking for autism. Well, if they're not pointing, gesturing, not speaking, not walking, no language, don't want to be around other kids in the first 2 years of life, there's a problem. So number one, we need to rule out, is there any sort of reason why? So they'll be doing maybe some blood tests, et cetera, et cetera. Boys are more than girls. So boys are more apt to be autistic than girls. Again, guidance and discipline. Our goal is to teach, not to always punish them. They can have temper tantrums, let them have it. Let them be there. Middle of the grocery store, have your temper tantrum, as long as they're not hurting themselves. They're not in injury, okay? And again, timeouts, 1 minute per year old, and you should minimize them. They shouldn't be like, I had a daughter-in-law, I love her to death, she's a great mom, but I remember one day, I think she said it 50 times, if you're not quiet, I'm going to put you on timeout. I'm going to put you, and do you understand what you did? I'm like, oh my goodness, these kids, all they know is punishment. They didn't understand, kids' behaviors do things, and you just need to sit with them and say, okay, what do you need? They're probably trying to get their point made and nobody was listening to them. And that usually will help a toddler calm down. So these toddlers, even into preschoolers, they don't want to be alone. If they all of a sudden they see in their house alone, they're going to be scared. Okay, so don't let them be alone if absolutely possible. And also, these children, again, these rituals, bedtime the same time, maybe reading the book, and then leave the door open, a nightlight, whatever it is, same rituals, do the same rituals all the time. And one of the things about toddlers, you think 1-year-olds don't understand you. I'm telling you, they really do. I usually will sit down on the floor or on the stretcher or bed next to them, and I'm going to start with telling them something like, wow, you've got the biggest blue eyes, or, oh, those cheeks, you got the cutest cheeks. And maybe start with a sticker on the little older kids that understand them. And now I'm on their level. I'm at eye level. I'm not towering over them because remember, I'm an adult, and they're afraid of big people, and we know that these children, all we do as nurses when we see them is usually give immunizations for the first year of life or so. So they think that's all we're going to do. They should have clothing that comes on and off easily, that's comfortable. And again, don't forget about sunburn protection if they're going to be outside, especially if you're like here in South Florida, like me. Shoes, we wear them. They should be a little bit bigger and wider than them. And also, posture is affected by them. So make sure that they have proper shoes to wear. Toilet independence depends on the kid. You have some kids that sit down and do it and they're 14 months old, and there's some kids that are 4 years old, they're still trying. Every kid is different. We know that if an infant a toddler can hold their urine for 2 hours or more, they should be ready for potty training. But it doesn't mean they will. So just keep that ritual, keep trying. So, the potty chair is there. They're saying bowel training usually attempted first. Don't leave them on the toilet that long. I mean, many children, you'll have the parents have their little potty chair in the living room and they'll be sitting on there until they go. That may or may not be a good thing. So depending on it, and tell them what is the word. Are they going poop? Are they going pee? What is your name for it? They still need calories, but not as much. And milk should only be up to 24 ounces. And again, a tablespoon of solid food per year. So 3 years old is 3 tablespoons of food. Make sure that food is chopped up, and little finger foods. They love it and they smash it everywhere. Some kids don't like textures. They don't like smooth, or they don't like gritty. Every kid is different. Remember, a picky eater is one who's selective in what they eat. I know toddlers get to the point where they want chicken nuggets and macaroni and cheese by the age 3. That's all they'll eat, right? But then you have some kids, older kids, they go into a feeding disorder. It's just that they're worried about their weight. That could be school age and higher. And must meet the families, the daycares, giving those preferences to the children that they're used to, is very important when we send our kids to daycare, that they understand the different cultures and give it. That has a price tag on it, which works for them, and that they're approved, which means they have inspections. We want that to make sure that they're clean and their workers, know proper safety stuff for these kids. Daycare with kids, we know toddlers, they have an attention span, but it's pretty short. So knowing that children usually play next to each other, called parallel play. Okay. And remember, these kids, they are the dive bomb kids into everything. They need really close supervision. We know that as toddlers become preschoolers, to let go and let them try, let them do things even though we don't want them to. It's hard. We need to do that for their mentation. They need to do that. And we know that age appropriate risks. Let them do things that are in their age group. They try to do things that are above them, they can hurt themselves because they're not fully ready to do it. That's when I would intervene on them and make sure that we take those precautions, having dressers that are attached to the walls. I mean, I've had a 2-year-old climb up a dresser, get to a TV on top, try to turn it on, and the TVs fall on the kid's head and crush the head, and if that, because the dresser fell off, not just the TV. This is when the TVs were the bigger ones than the screens today, but making sure that all safeties are there as possible. They're curious and mobile. It's like a blender without a lid on. They're everywhere. Injury prevention, non-flammable sleepwear, making sure they can't get into medicines, and making sure your water in your house isn't too hot. Having all of those detectors, and then having just a flat space in the cribs, not anything in there with them. And of course, car seats, they can be front seat, make sure they're in one. Make sure they've got proper toys, that they're not going to fall apart. Remember, play, play, play. That's all these kids do. That's how they manipulate and understand their world. They socialize and explore. They also start working with other kids at social development. And it's starting, thinking about just not me, thinking about other kids too, because parallel play, playing next to each other, becomes, as they get to preschoolers, playing together with a goal, like playing checkers in the end. Always protect from mosquitoes, from sun, and of course, child-proofing the home, so important. So that was today's lecture. So are you guys drained out completely?
No.
No.
Would you like to do a Kahoots? It's only 10 questions.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Because usually, you're going to be about 5 minutes over the time I want, but I think having a 10-question Kahoots. Have you ever played a Kahoots before?
Yes.
Go to
Yes.
Kahoot.it. Kahoot.it on your telephones. And you are going to punch in that number 374 3237. Put in your name. Now, I will always send you the Kahoots.
How do you get in there?
Kahoot.it. And it will tell you game pin. Now, usually when you have a class, you will have 10 minutes per hour per break. So I like to get you out of here by 10 after. Today, we did that extra PowerPoint for teaching you about it. So we're going to be about 5 minutes over because it's only 10-minute Kahoots. If we were earlier, I actually had a 30-question Kahoots too, just to be sure. But I will be sending these stuff to you so that you have it. Do you like all of your little faces that you can choose? I think it's pretty neat. All right, let's just get going. Week 1. The nurse explains that permanent teeth begin erupting at what age? Permanent teeth. Baby teeth, we know, is about 6 months. I think I call it when you start seeing
Excellent.
baby teeth falling out. It's like, all I want for Christmas is my 2 front teeth, right? It's about 6 years old. Yes, it is. 4 years old, they've got the rest of their baby teeth in. 5 years old, they have them. And usually about 6 years old is when you start seeing baby teeth coming out and permanent teeth coming in. Again, that's when you really got to make sure that you're brushing those kids and getting to the dentist. What does self-feeding help to develop in the toddler? Self-feeding. Like, why do we let these kids make a mess and everything everywhere? Because that's what they do. So feeding themselves gives them that sense of independence, and it's what they want. They can choose what they want, what do they like more? So paying attention, you can know, oh, they like that better than this one, right? Why is the 4-year-old child likely to obey rules? I think this has to do with Kohlberg and being good and bad and consequences for each, right? They don't want to be punished. They don't want to go on timeout. The school age child is the pleasers, okay? School age, but which is ages 6 to 12. But the 4-year-old, the preschooler, I don't want to go in timeout and I don't want my toys taken away. That's what they know. What is the earliest age at which an infant is able to sit steadily alone? Now, if we go through gross motor, we go through that they lift their heads and turn over and creep and crawl and walk. And somewhere in between that creeping, crawling, and creeping, they're going to be able to sit. That means there's no pillows, no propping around them. And that's about 8 months old. Earlier than that, 5 months is too early. They're just finishing turning from front to back and back to front, okay? 15 months, they should be running. And 4 months, they should have lifting their head up. What is an abnormal finding in an evaluation of a 6-month-old? Abnormal. By 3 months to 4 months old, they should be able to lift their head up. Head leg means if you take the kid on their back, the baby, pull up their hands, their head just falls back. As they get older, their head will come with their arms. So if it falls back, that's called a head lag. And they should have head control, neck control by then. How many hours should toddlers be able to stay dry for the nurse to suggest they're ready to begin bladder training? And it's about 2 hours, and that's when they start doing it. So very good. Good job. You were listening. I love it. How many minutes should a 5-year-old be in a timeout? What equation did I tell you there? So it should be 1 minute per age. So if they're 5, it's 1 times 5. It's 5. Very good. Chris is on fire. What type of family consists of 2 parents with children from previous relationships? You know, there's all sorts of families, and there's families are whatever they are. It could be 2 men, 2 women, woman, grandparents, adoptive. There could be all sorts of families, and they're all families. When you put them together, it's called blended. I mean, right now I'm in a blended relationship for the last 20 years. I have 2 children from a previous relationship. My husband has 3 girls from previous relationships. So there's 5 of us. And of course, all of our grandchildren and almost another grandchild. So we are blended, and we blended beautifully. An infant who weighs 6 pounds, 12 ounces at birth should weigh what at 6 months old? And 16 ounces is a pound. So if it's 6 pounds, 12 ounces, 6 plus 6 is 12, and 12 plus 12 is 24. It comes out to be 16 minus 24 is 8, so 13.8. Now, if any of you have difficulty with dosage calculation, I am the person to talk to, and I have a great recording with handouts for you, or I can meet with you one-to-one. I make it simple, okay? Extremely simple. And last question, what is an example of a proximal distal development? Proximal distal. It's like cephalocaudal, right? And that means they're proximal, they're to themselves, and they want it here, and then they start moving their hands. Oh, good. See how we did today. Number 3, Christina. Good job, Christina. Number 2, Shara Day, I think. Number 1, Sean. Good job. Number 4, Chris and Teeth wall, okay. Anyway, guys, it has been a great day with you all. Please, any questions, let me know. Know that you do have that calculate with confidence that is due, and you also have a discussion question. Any problems with anything, just let me know. I will be posting this recording, and I'll also, again, post the PowerPoint with it. I like to keep you all in the same place by tomorrow, by noon, if not later on tonight. So it's been a pleasure. Again, if I can help you with anything, just let me know. Thank you
Can
for
I
a
ask
good
you a
class.
question real quick?
Absolutely.
With the assignment for the dosage calculation, should we, like if I write it out, can I take a picture of it and submit it?
Absolutely.